Hey guys, here we go with another video from the Your Games Analyzed series. In this game, we will be looking at Wall 041 Tree against Benwick, and this game was sent in by Benwick, who's playing the black pieces. Ben is on a ChessGoals study plan, and he's very active in our Discord, and we'll put links in the description below to some of the ChessGoals links. So in this game, the first thing I have to say is both sides played very accurate. They had accuracy scores of 95 and 96. Really well played game. And I think Ben especially, who's playing the black pieces, played a very good opening in terms of getting his pieces developed, and a really solid endgame, as we'll see. So we start out with the Sicilian defense, and here white plays 2c4. Not a very common move, but a tough one to deal with if you haven't seen it before. So one thing we're going to talk about in this game is how to combat this structure, how to fight against these two pawns. I think it's fine to start with this kingside fianchetto. This looks good. Ben's doing a great job developing. Okay, let's stop here. So there's one minor piece left to get out for black, the bishop on c8, the famous late square bishop. The issue with the bishop in this position is the f5 square is guarded by the pawn on e4, and the g5 square is guarded by the pawn on h3. So the only available squares are d7 and e6. Traditional chess principles teach us move out all the minor pieces and then move out the rooks, and so on. In this position, we want to make an exception and leave this bishop on c8 for the time being. The reason we want to do that is because if we look at white's position, white still has to move the knight, the bishop, and get the king castled. They're really far behind in development. What we can do is try to blow open the center to very quickly get at the white king. So the plan here that I would play is e6. And the reason I like e6 is because we're going for an immediate d5, and that's a great way to fight against this sort of stonewall structure, is to push this pawn up to d5 and try to look for trades. Maybe you push past, and it gets uncomfortable for white because they don't necessarily want to take you in a lot of those lines. They may end up with an isolated queen pawn if they capture twice. So after e6, let's say white plays knight f3, we go d5. They really don't want to take, like I mentioned, bishop e2. Trade on e4. Now we can get this bishop out through b7, and this is going to be a really nice long diagonal with a pawn weakness on e4. So we can go b6. If white castles, put that bishop on the fianchetto square. So now we have, bad arrow, now we have this double fianchetto position. Both bishops cutting across the board. These are really strong minor pieces. The knight on c6 is really strong because it has an outpost on d4. And this knight on f6 is doing a good job pressuring this pawn on e4. Look at white's pieces. No outpost for this knight. No real active squares for this knight, not doing much. This knight's also playing defensive. This bishop is probably white's better bishop of the two because it can freely move around. But right now it's not on an active square. This is a bad bishop. Hits this pawn. The e4 pawn is also on the same color complex, so it's kind of trapped in here. The advantage is black's in this position. Definite strategic advantage here. So this idea of e6, d5 I think is a good one to remember as a way to open up white's position. Another thing to think about here, if you watch the Q&A video that Jesse and I did, I talked a lot about risk and reward. And if you look at this position, black has an advantage, and it's a very solid position for black. So what we really want to do, if possible, is keep our position solid and increase our advantage. So in the next few moves, Ben goes for this plan of opening up with f5, and I get why he did it. He wants to look for a pawn break. It doesn't feel like there's any active plan for black in this position. But the potential issue with f5 is it opens up the king, and it weakens these light squares. So now all of a sudden there's a lot of weaknesses in black's camp, including the king safety. So if we take this position and compare it to this one, quite a large difference, right? in one position we have no weaknesses, in the other position there are some things for white to chip away at. Alright, so let's move forward a little bit. So white has a slight edge here, but Ben's playing good moves. Both sides are really doing a pretty good job with the tactics. And now what I really like is from this point forward, the position is about equal here. From this point forward, I think Ben does a great job playing for the initiative, and that's really what he should be doing. Try to keep your pieces active, put them on good squares, and create threats. But even though Stockfish is saying the eval is right around 3/10 of a pawn for white advantage, I think this is much easier to play for white because of this bishop pointing at g6 being defended by the king. So I think in terms of king safety, black's at a big disadvantage, and that's something that we have to keep in mind for the rest of the game. Black is up one pawn, so there's kind of this imbalance, one pawn up for black, but a king safety advantage for white. So some tactics happen here, both rooks get captured. And I like this a lot. So look at this, Ben's playing active, taking that pawn, extra pawn, trying to trade it off, open up the rook on d8. It does drop this pawn, but look at this activity by Ben. And now, even though the rest of this game peters out into a draw, if you look at just the flow of the pieces, you can tell that black is playing more aggressive. Black is playing for the initiative, doesn't really want the draw. But at this point, white is so solid, there's really no other option but to go for the draw. So take, take. Now we get opposite colored bishops. And there's really nothing either side can do to play for the win here. So first thing I have to say, really strong game by you, Ben. Overall, the tactics were great. Your opening was good in terms of getting everything developed. I think somewhere around that move 8, though, maybe look for that center pawn break, try to punish white. And your endgame was really nice, too. So I think more positives than constructive things from this game. But the constructive ones would be looking to break the center open in this pawn structure. Back here with e6, d5. And really that's the biggest one. Otherwise, I think you did a great job. So thanks for submitting your game, Ben. If you like this video, guys, please click the thumbs up and click the subscribe if you want to see more content from ChessGoals. And we'll put some links in the description below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.